Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about Raphinha's Ballon d'Or season. I want to go into further depth about Raphinha's season so far and also speak about his evolution and how he has progressed since the 2022-2023 season under Xavi Hernandez. We're also going to be talking about Barcelona offering Frenkie de Jong a new contract. And lastly, we are going to be talking about Barcelona going for Alexander Isak. All of this is going to be talked about for today's video. I hope you guys do enjoy it. If you guys are Barcelona fans, this is going to be the channel for you. This is where we do talk about everything regarding FC Barcelona in terms of transfer news, player reports, match reviews, match previews, and everything in between. So make sure that if you do end up liking this video, please subscribe to the channel and also click the thumbs up button. I would really appreciate it. So first of all, I'm in a really good mood because Barcelona is in really good form. As a matter of fact, Barcelona is now the only undefeated team in 2025 in the European top 5 leagues, which is amazing because we're talking about a season that contains a strong Liverpool side, a strong PSG side, a strong Real Madrid side, Manchester City side, a strong Bayern Munich side, right? So there's many strong teams respectively. But the one team that does seem invincible, it is Barcelona. Even if we only play with 10 men, we can still come out with a win or at the very least a tie, but never a loss. And so hopefully this form does continue until the end of the season and beyond. But going back to Raphinha, Raphinha to me should be one of the Ballon d'Or contenders that is coming up. And I say that because even though, yes, I know that Raphinha is not the most high goal scoring winger in the world right now because Salah has 40 games, 30 goals, and 22 assists, while Raphinha has 40 games, 25 goals, and 16 assists, even though, yes, it is less numbers than Salah. When Raphinha scores his goals, they're in big games. Like, this guy is a clutch player, a player who rises when his team really does need him. Raphinha simply just has more important goals than Salah, which I believe puts Raphinha over Salah. You add in the titles to Raphinha, for sure, the margin between Raphinha and Salah is going to extend even more. But let's look at Raphinha in big games this season. He has scored a hat-trick against Bayern Munich, a goal and an assist in the first Clásico, a goal against Dortmund, 2 goals and 1 assist in the second Clásico, 2 goals with one of them being a winner against Benfica, scored the winner goal against Benfica again, 2 assists versus Atalanta and 2 assists versus Atletico Madrid. And so every time Barcelona had to encounter those big games, Raphinha was always there. And with 25 goals so far, Raphinha has already surpassed Vinicius' best goal scoring season, and we're only in March. This is why I continue to say that if you're going to put Vinicius as the second best player last season with his numbers, you better place Raphinha anywhere between first and second place for the next upcoming Ballon d'Or ceremony. He has 9 goals, he has 4 assists in 9 Champions League matches, 9 big chances created, and averaging 3.1 key passes per 90 minutes. He is impactful, he is spectacular, he is the one that you can bet on. Also, Raphinha and Lewandowski are the second best Barcelona duo to score at least 9 goals each in the same Champions League campaign after Messi and Neymar back in the 2014-2015 season where they won the treble under Luis Enrique. Could this be a sign that Barcelona are on their way to winning more trophies later this season? Hopefully it is. So let's talk about Raphinha's evolution over the past 3 years. We are going to be analyzing his total 2,387 minutes of match data across 72 competitive appearances and see what we have learned. So from the beginning, Xavi Hernandez did deploy Raphinha in the right wing position under a 4-3-3 system. This was back in the 2022-2023 season. And the reason why Xavi Hernandez placed him there is because he knew that Raphinha had very good playmaking abilities. He was seen as the replacement for Dembélé or a rotational player for Dembélé. In that season, he had 7 goals, 9 assists in 2,843 La Liga minutes, averaging 0.34 goal involvements per 90 minutes. It's not that bad. It is okay for somebody who just came from Leeds. 3.1 crosses per 90 minutes, which placed him in the 82nd percentile, and also had 2.1 shots per 90 minutes, which placed him in the 45th percentile. 93% of his chances that he did create did originate from the right half space. I remember at that time, the majority of the fan base was saying that Raphinha seems very robotic, not very Brazilian, a player who is very one-dimensional. Everybody just wanted to see Dembélé at that time because creative-wise, Dembélé provided much more. Even in terms of his defensive responsibilities, his counter-pressing was not that effective. He was averaging 12.3 possession regains per 90 minutes, which ranked him below Ansu Fati at that time with 14.1 and Ferran Torres with 13.8. So he was like an okay, solid player. All of us did come to a consensus that we were rating this player a 7 out of 10 or maybe even a 6 out of 10. Not bad. So then came the 2023-2024 season, and this is where things really did change, right? Because Xavi Hernandez noticed one one thing. Raphinha was not just a right winger. Yes, Raphinha had some tensions with Xavi Hernandez in the first season, stating that, that he does not want to play on the left wing position or any other position but the right wing position because that is where he believed he can perform at best. But in the second season, Xavi Hernandez was able to give him enough confidence to make him believe that he can play in multiple positions within the front three, which is why in the 2023-2024 season, he played a hybrid role. 52% of his minutes were on the right wing position, 28% of his minutes were on the left wing position, 12% of the minutes came from the false nine position, and 8% of his minutes came from the central midfield position. He was playing everywhere, and let me tell you, he was playing amazing in each of those positions, becoming very effective and almost matching Dembele in terms of impact. Keep in mind, this was the exact same season where Dembele eventually left, and we had to bet on Raphinha, and the key metric shift did emerge eventually, because when it came to the shots per 90, he did have a 38% increase from the previous season, placing him in the 72nd percentile. In the expected goals per 90, a 54% increase from 0.38 to 0.58. Crosses per 90, it did go low, but that's mainly because he was going into the false nine position, sometimes going into the central midfield position, so his crosses per 90 went down by 41% from 3.1 to 1.8. Once again, mainly because sometimes he was taken off the wing position. In terms of the progressive carries, it went down by 22% from 7.1 to 5.5, basically showcasing that Xavi Hernandez did not really want him to progress the ball as much as he used to in the first season because he knew that that was not one of his strengths. It was a very complicated season because, for example, Barcelona's midfield did collapse under Oriol Romeu and his limitations, because that is what led towards the wingers getting forced into build-up roles. Raphinha's 12.7 final third entries per 90 plummeted to 8.9 in the 2023-2024 season, and that is because he had to compensate for those defensive gaps that was being opened by the midfield. But now we go on to Raphinha's third season at Barcelona. This is where the breakthrough happened. This is where the full evolution for Raphinha just blossomed, because I do think that the reason why we are seeing Raphinha today and the way that we do see him talking about the Ballon Dor and that Raphinha is one of the best wingers in the world, this and that, it is because of Hansi Flick. It is only because of him. Without Hansi, Raphinha would not be the player that he is today, for sure. And let's just look at this image here. This is going to be the offensive output rise that Raphinha has had when you compare all three seasons. Look at how different it is compared to the first season to the third season. There was a total of 182% increase from the 2022-2023 season to the 2024-2025 season in terms of goals per 90. There is a 142% increase when it came to the expected goals per 90 from his first season to the third season. Look at the shot conversion rate, a 77% increase from the first season to the third season. And then touches in the box, which is freaking amazing. 112% increase from the first season to the third season. He went from 4.1 per 90 to 8.7 per 90. That's literally more than double. Raphinha sees the ball inside the box way more. Raphinha does now operate as Barcelona's secondary penalty box threat. The first one, it is Lewandowski, but if it's not Lewandowski, it is Raphinha. He is by no means involved in deep build-up whatsoever, especially when you compare it to the first and second season. His 1.3 first-time shots per 90, which placed him in the 91st percentile, demonstrated his refined poacher instincts. He's much more dangerous. And even though, yes, his assist per 90 numbers did drop a little, his key passes per 90 and pre-assist per 90 rised a lot. He went from 1.8 to 2.2 key passes per 90, 0.19 to 0.31 pre-assist per 90 when you compare to the previous season. His 6.3 counter-pressing duels per 90, which place him in the 94th percentile, creates a indirect assist through forced turnovers. So there's a huge reason on why Raphinha is playing like this. It's because of 4 different reasons. Point number 1, the inverted fullback overlaps. Alejandro Balde, 63% of the time, makes those central runs, which creates a right half space void for Raphinha to make those diagonal runs. Point number 2, dual false nine dynamics. Raphinha often does like to combine with either Gavi or Dani Olmo, whoever is the number 10 in the starting 11, like a lot. And because either Gavi or Dani Olmo makes so many progressive passes per 90, that does enable the third man combination, in which Raphinha does capitalize on. Point number 3, counter pressing triggers. 42% of goal involvements originate from high turnovers, which is La Liga highest. And Raphinha, once again, capitalizes off of that. And point number 4, Raphinha has really developed his weak foot. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this guy does not have a weak foot. His right foot is just as strong as his left foot. 31% shot volume now left-footed, which is a 19% increase from the first season. So even though I would say that his traditional wing play metrics did decline a little, the explosive growth in his goal output, his counter-pressing effectiveness, and multi-space threat generation position him as Barcelona's tactical centerpiece. So props to Hansi Flick. Now let's move on towards the next topic, and let's talk about Frenkie de Jong, because it says here, according to Francoreas, that Barcelona have sent Frenkie de Jong a new renewal offer, and he has received it. It is a fresh contract for 3 years, and his salary will be the same, but without any deferral wages, with an annual salary of 18 to 90 million euros a season, as the club aims to retain the midfielder's services, even though there are interest coming from Premier League clubs. Now, if you guys are wondering what that means in terms of his deferred wages, it basically does mean that Barcelona have already paid his deferred wages, meaning that if Frenkie de Jong does decide to renew for another 3 years, which will take him until 2029, within those 3 seasons, Barcelona do not have to pay extra. And when I mean by extra, I mean like the deferred wages. Because the reason why we were paying Frenkie de Jong more than as we did in the past 3 years was because everything that had to be pushed back in 2020 and 2021 was pushed to 2022, 2023, 2024. Hence the reason why Frenkie was getting paid a lot of money in the past few years. But because Barcelona have caught up, we paid everything that we were supposed to pay. If Frenkie were to renew for another 3 years, those deferred wages are going to be non-existent because they have already been paid for. So it's just going to be a simple amount of 18 to 90 million euros, not like, let's just say, for example, 25 million euros. And let me tell you, if Barcelona can pay Frenkie de Jong 18 to 90 million euros a season, that is okay with me, as long as Frenkie de Jong continues to perform in the way that he should, because his form has been really good. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this guy barely does lose any balls. He has become more physical. He wins a lot of balls, and I do think that Frenkie de Jong is slowly starting to become one of the leaders for Barcelona. As a matter of fact, Hansi Flick no longer places Marc Asado over Frenkie de Jong. But here is going to be the question: what happens when Marc Bernal does return? Because what if Marc Bernal ends up becoming one of the best CDMs in the world, which is very likely, because let's remember who Marc Bernal was in the beginning of the season. Then what does that mean? Because you're not going to be benching Pedri. You're not going to be having Marc Bernal and Frenkie de Jong in the double pivot position. It's going to be Pedri and somebody else. And if you're going to tell me that Frenkie de Jong is going to be rotating with Bernal and Marc Asado while getting paid 18 to 19 million euros, that is where things do get a little, I would just say, iffy. Because I don't know how that would make the rest of the Barcelona fan base like feel to pay somebody 18 to 19 million euros and he's not even a starter. Because let me tell you, Marc Bernal is going to want minutes. Marc Asado is also going to want minutes. And it does get very tricky because Hansi Flick is going to have to keep these players happy. And I don't want to see Barcelona lose our 2 gems, whether it's Marc Asado or Marc Bernal. They are the future. So we'll see how Frenkie de Jong does respond. And who knows, maybe Frenkie de Jong rejects the contract renewal like he did in the first one. Only time will tell. It all depends on how Barcelona do perform in these last 3 months. Now let's move on towards the last conversation and speak about Alexander Isak. According to David Ornstein, who is one of the most reliable sources in football, he has claimed that if there's a bid of around 175 million euros for Isak, Newcastle might talk, but they have no intentions of selling him. Now, I want to make this very quick, and it's going to be, I would just say, hateful. I am sorry, but paying 175 million euros for somebody like Isak, like, bro, who do you think you are? Not to Isak, but just in general, whoever's like around Isak and whoever's like in charge of like putting this type of price tag to Isak. 175 million euros, really? I kind of felt like Newcastle were going to do this because I know Newcastle. I know how Newcastle like to operate within football and especially in business. Newcastle is not a nice club. Like business wise, they're not. Like these people are money hungry. Go look at the owners of Newcastle and you understand what I mean. Asking for 175 million euros for Isak, bro, like Isak, I am sorry, but you are stuck there for life. This is like PSG part 2. You're stuck there. The club is not going to want to sell you unless they see the money that they want to see. They're going to be doing you no favors. So who the hell, Newcastle, are you guys to be demanding 175 million euros for Isak? Like, bro, are you kidding me? You are insane. The market for strikers is just, I would just say inflated. Like, for example, Sesko, he's getting priced at 60 to 80 million euros. No, thank you. Jokeris, I've heard reports about his price being 75 million euros to 85 million euros. No, thank you. That is a lot of money. And then Isak at 175 million euros, more than Mbappe, more than Lamine Yamal, more than Erling Haaland or Musiala? You gotta be kidding me. And what's crazy is that Sesko, Gyökeres, Isaac, they're all being monitored by Deco. It is his favors. And we do follow Deco. We know that Deco knows what he's talking about. He knows what players that he does need. Look at Dani Olmo. It's a great example. But for this amount of money, I would say that Barcelona should just pass. And we should just continue to rely on Ferran Torres and Lewandowski for the next season. And just prioritize enforcing the left wing position instead of the striker position where there is a better market, there is better prices like Nico Williams, Leao, etc. So that is it. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.